Hello and welcome to TriStar's webinar on holistic PLM and organizational change management. We appreciate your attendance today and hope you get value out of this presentation. My name is Ric Prince and I work in strategic development at TriStar, and today I would like to discuss a holistic approach to deploying PLM technology based on comprehensive organizational change management. I've worked in multiple industries and segments, including aerospace and defense, industrial and automotive markets, implementing PLM technology to optimize and transform business processes. These implementations have spanned CAD data management, product data management, enterprise product lifecycle management, and integration with enterprise systems for requirements management, software development, ERP, and aftermarket supports. In these roles, I have led enterprise PLM transformation projects for large multinational organizations. I've also worked as the Director of Federal Aerospace and Defense Product and Market Strategy at PTC and currently support TriStar in strategic development. TriStar is uniquely qualified to assist you on your digital transformation journey. We have industry-leading technologists skilled in assessing your current state of process, data, and technology quality, defining an enterprise business transformation strategy, configuring PLM to support your business strategy, migrating data from source systems to future state target systems, and implementing enterprise system integrations. TriStar is qualified to support your needs based on a vast resource base of PLM professionals from multiple vertical industries and segments. These resources have helped organizations like Whirlpool, Generac, Polaris, and Johnson Controls achieve significant business value based on best-class PLM technology and the adoption of product development best practices. As PTC's largest platinum value-added reseller, TriStar is best equipped to help your organization achieve value. TriStar helps manufacturing companies leverage product development technology to transform business processes to achieve strategic objectives. TriStar partners with companies to optimize product development with the following technology areas: enterprise product data management to manage engineering content like CAD, parts, BOMs, and documents, and an integrated design environment with a closed-loop, quality-driven change management approach. This also includes heterogeneous CAD data management of all leading MCAD and ECAD platforms. It also includes optimized change management to improve and transform change management from local domain levels to the extended cross-functional enterprise. We also support enterprise product lifecycle management, which entails full lifecycle support from requirements to retirement, integrating cross-functional product development content in a single source of truth. We also help companies optimize the integration of engineering content for upstream and downstream exchange and synchronization. With this slide, I'd like to talk a little bit about the current state of product development. And we realize that you can't characterize all organizations the same way, but based on our experience, these are some things that we have noted. While process and tool maturity vary widely across organizations and industries, TriStar has observed some key characteristics of the current state which hinder excellence. These include disconnected silos of product data, a heavy reliance on a drawing-centric approach to product development. In this case, bill of material data for manufacturing and supply chain is specified on the engineering drawing for downstream consumers. This drawing-centric approach drives significant inefficiency and waste. Another current state challenge is ineffective IT integrations impacting data synchronization. This relates to disconnected and disparate tools and a lack of an integrated and closed-loop change management approach to synchronize data across these silos. A lack of integrated product development process architecture. In this regard, many processes are either not documented, or if they are documented, are not integrated and are not continuously measured for improvement. Another characteristic is sub-optimized change management processes and systems. Many organizations have independent domain-specific change management systems and processes that are disconnected. And this results in a lack of closed-loop change processes based on CM2 best practice guidelines. Another is the inability to integrate engineering disciplines in an interconnected design and collaboration environment. We have found that many organizations lack an integrated design environment managing the cross-section of systems, software, mechanical, and electrical data. We've also identified an inadequate definition of an enterprise data model. This results in a lack of enterprise understanding of the master data management strategy, business objects, relationships, and data transformation over the life cycle of product development. And then the last characteristic of the current state is a failure to effectively plan for organizational change. Many organizations do not understand the fundamental importance and value of a strategic and well thought out organizational change approach supporting a technology implementation such as PLM. So today we're going to focus on holistic organizational change management supporting PLM. Managing change in a globally dispersed organization is difficult. Extending that change across cross-functional processes and domains increases the technical challenge and risk. TriStar believes that some organizations fail because they lack a comprehensive strategy to manage change across people, process, and technology. One of the key best practices for successful PLM implementation is a robust and comprehensive approach to managing the nexus of change at the intersection of people, process, and technology. TriStar specializes in helping organizations adopt PLM for business transformation. In this context, we typically see customers place focus on technology and tools, but insufficient focus on changing the way users work and the required changes to the underlying business processes required for product development. Today's presentation will focus on a holistic approach to manage organizational change, which equally balances focus across people, process, and technology. So why do organizations struggle with technology implementation? We found that there are many reasons why, but these are a few that we have identified as leading reasons. So a failure to understand the true nature and span of PLM. This ultimately leads to underestimated scope and effort. Organizations assume that their current data models and processes somehow will effectively deliver PLM. This is not the case. Underlying data models and processes have to be transformed in concert with the technology to effectively deliver PLM. We've also identified that many organizations fail to develop internal subject matter expert knowledge about the PLM functionality they're pursuing. It's critically important that organizations develop internal SMEs who understand the selected technology at a fairly deep level to serve as change agents and specialists across the organization. There's also a perception that independent silos of data is more efficient than a single source, and that integrating these independent silos into a single system creates inefficiency and a lack of value. So that perception has to be resolved and discussed and mitigated. There's also an unwillingness to adapt existing business processes, especially ones that are not efficient to PLM technology. We've also found that many organizations don't document the way they work. They either don't document it, or if they have documented processes, they lack process metrics that show how well the process is performing, where there are gaps and inefficiencies, and the characteristics of how business process performance is manifested in the organization. We've also identified inadequate cross-functional governance. So the governance required to manage change across different functional groups typically is not strong. Also, organizations spend too little time really ferreting out and identifying ROI opportunities. Also, poor process quality and poor data quality. It's critically important to understand your current state of process and data quality as you implement PLM. We've also identified a lack of organizational understanding of the gaps in their current methods. Many organizations don't have a widespread and common understanding of the inefficiencies in their tools and processes, and as such, they don't understand what a strategy and a roadmap for improvement might entail. Lastly, many organizations fail to prepare the organization for the cultural changes required to achieve PLM. So, driving a holistic approach to product development. TriStar believes that organizations need to adopt a holistic approach to PLM implementation, which equally focuses on the following key tenets. Product development strategy ensures that PLM supports organizational goals, and that understanding is cascaded across all levels of the organization. Business process. The effort to ensure that business process change is consistent with technology change with full user awareness and training. Program management. Comprehensive program management utilizing industry standards such as PMI and ITIL will mitigate the risk of failure and ensure proper escalation. Effective technical management and leadership is critical to ensure PLM is accurately sized for the organization and robust integration frameworks are developed. Finally, organizational change management for formalized and planned organizational change activities over the full life cycle of the project. It cannot be a back-end consideration. It requires upfront planning and continuous focus over all phases of the implementation. Today's presentation will address each one of these areas in more detail. This slide is just a header slide showing the topics we'll be discussing. So first we'll discuss product development strategy. So one of the things that's important is to align PLM with strategic objectives. So it's important to understand customer strategic objectives. You correlate those strategic objectives to business initiatives. Based on those business initiatives, you identify the business processes and their relative maturity levels that are impacted. And then you deploy a technology solution that's mapped to those processes and maturity goals. Aligning PLM to strategic objectives establishes the foundation for organizational change. So how do you do that? Many organizations establish yearly corporate objectives, which are then cascaded across the organization all the way to employee yearly goals. This ensures that the entire organization is aligned and pursuing a common objective. The same is true for PLM. Aligning PLM with strategic goals and communicating this alignment across the organization provides rationale and understanding for why the organization is pursuing PLM. A business initiative is a way for organizations to set priorities and focus. Business initiatives should be defined based on their ability to support organizational vision and strategic objectives. Identify specific business initiatives which are enabled by PLM, which directly support the identified strategic objectives. Following this approach establishes a foundation for organizational change because the organization is not confused or uninformed on why PLM is being implemented. Aligning PLM with strategic objectives and linking them to business initiatives communicates the path for business transformation. Next, identify the process impact. Identify business processes which are impacted by the selected business initiatives. This provides clear direction to the organization regarding how PLM implementation will impact the daily working practices and processes for users. This should include a process maturity assessment to identify your current as-is maturity state, as well as the goal for future to-be maturity state, which will be enabled by PLM. Again, this provides a foundation for a planned and orderly business transformation, which is aligned with the PLM deployment. Next, ensure you have proper process and technology governance. This is another key best practice for successful PLM implementation. Governance, managing the change to working practices and tools. Leading organizations adopt a three-in-the-box approach to leading the project, leveraging an IT technical lead, a program management lead, and a business transformation lead. These three resources can balance the implementation to ensure that risk is mitigated. Additionally, leading adopters of PLM ensure comprehensive alignment with the business process organization and the synchronization of working practices as technology change is enabled. Technology change has to be synchronized with process change, or the capabilities delivered will be suboptimized. Next, utilizing this organizational alignment on strategic objectives in PLM, define, communicate, and evangelize the PLM vision, strategy, and roadmap. This should be documented in a clear and concise manner so that the whole organization can see the full roadmap and understand how it supports the strategic objectives and how organizational change will be enabled. Next, demonstrate strategic value via metrics. Utilize key performance indicators and metrics to tie it all together. Leading PLM adopters measure the success of strategic objectives, business initiatives, and business process change using metrics. Using this approach delivers a holistic and comprehensive view of value and organizational change, which supports the organizational vision and strategy. Ultimately, metrics prove value, and they must link to and support organizational objectives. Next, I'd like to discuss business process change. Why is organizational process maturity relevant? A process maturity assessment evaluates the attributes of a company's processes to determine the process ability to consistently and continuously contribute to achieving organizational objectives. Processes with a high ability to contribute to these objectives are considered mature. Leading PLM adopters have documented and measured processes. These organizations measure processes to drive continuous improvement opportunities based on value. A well-defined business process change strategy coordinating with technology adoption and realized through a comprehensive organizational change management strategy is a best practice for PLM implementation success. Documented and measured processes are a foundation for PLM success. Next, I'd like to discuss understanding and documenting the current information ecosystem. This is another key component of successful PLM implementation, and that is a foundational understanding of the current state of your information ecosystem. This ecosystem will identify data transfer and exchange and the degree to which these are achieved electronically as opposed to manually. The image depicted here is just a sample current state diagram, but it's an example of a diagram that can be used to educate, inform, and gain consensus on the need for change and the need for process optimization. It should be noted that extensive interaction with process owners is required to identify the existing as-is business characteristics, analyze gaps, challenges, and pain points, and leverage that knowledge to derive a future state to-be process definition. Ultimately, a key tenet of effective organizational change is a well-planned, communicated, and agreed business process change and rationalization strategy. Next, I'd like to discuss assessing the impact of poor process and data quality. The degree to which an organization truly understands the current state of process and data quality is another key discriminator for PLM success. TriStar has identified that early assessment and analysis of data and process quality has a dramatic impact on the risk of ineffective technology deployment. Organizations who perform an early, upfront, enterprise process and data optimization analysis will identify key roadblocks and challenges, which ultimately reduces the risk of failure. These organizations will see a reduction in the level of process and data remediation required as a prerequisite to successful PLM. PLM is not a panacea. Organizational process and data quality directly impacts PLM success. Next, I'd like to discuss the value of an enterprise data model. Data modeling is a cross-functional activity to help TriStar determine the state of a company's data, what type of data should be managed in the PLM system, and how it should be structured based on industry-proven best practices. If a company is going to truly implement PLM, it must transition from a drawing-centric philosophy to a part-centric philosophy. Once this has been established, the full data model can be developed. A few things to notice in the data model: complete document management and correct linking to all business objects. Correct part subtyping is identified and can be incorporated as necessary in change management. Full and complete EBOM, MBOM, and SBOM transformation. Models are uniquely identified typed to enable rigor in change management, manufacturing and supplier part numbers are properly incorporated, and configurability can be defined all the way down to documentation at the work center to enable complete automation to the route. TriStar understands that a data model scales as a company scales in its PLM usage. The key is that a proper data model definition mitigates risk as we move through the phases of implementation. Understanding the relationships and transformation of business objects is critical to PLM success. Next, I'd like to discuss the importance of comprehensive program management. So why is program management critical to PLM? PLM requires robust and mature processes for program management overseeing the entire phase of PLM deployment. PLM projects should be managed using best-class program management processes such as PMI and PMBOK. And due to the complexity and substantial financial investment, robust program management processes must be employed to manage the deployment, including project schedule and issue management, budget and cost and financial tracking, team and resource management based on a well-defined and agreed RACI matrix, reporting of metrics and KPIs measuring business values, comprehensive partner and supplier management to ensure all parties are synchronized and aligned as you implement PLM, a formalized PLM development methodology for defining requirements, developing a system, testing, training, and deployment, and then formalized IT support based on industry standards such as ITIL for organizational support. Effective PLM program management processes mitigate the risk of failure. Once the technology has been aligned with business objectives, the next best practice is setting up an enterprise-wide cross-functional team with organizational reporting, structure, and governance. One element of this is ensuring that you have adequate and full top-down direction and bottom-up support. Organizational evangelists at all levels of the business need to be aware, informed, and supportive of the initiative. Providing consistent communication and messaging will ensure that the value proposition and anticipated benefits are understood and cascaded across cross-functional stakeholders and groups. Next, you need to set up organizational governance and reporting. PLM projects should be organized and executed using well-defined teams and organizations which are structured for reporting, execution, and escalation. One key best practice TriStar has identified is a three-in-the-box approach to PLM leadership. This was mentioned earlier, but it's critically important to make sure that you have an equal balance between the business transformation lead, the IT lead, and the program management lead to mitigate risk and increase the likelihood of success. Also, leading organizations implement RAID reporting of risks, actions, issues, and decisions to track issues that are identified in support of managing the program management of PLM projects. And then a RACI matrix is critical to identify individual roles and responsibilities. RACI stands for responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. And it's used to align all the different stakeholders and members of your team to ensure that everyone understands their roles and responsibilities to ensure successful PLM implementation. Cross-functional governance and organizational oversight is critical to PLM success. Next, I want to talk about the PLM development process. Similar to your own internal methods and processes for designing and developing products and equipment, the development of a PLM system must follow a well-defined and structured and orderly process to capture customer requirements, derive additional functional and technical requirements, translate those requirements into a solution design concept, which can be configured, built, tested, and confirmed by the PLM team and the organization through user acceptance testing. This image reflects the standard TriStar PLM development process. A structured and organized PLM development process will deliver consistent business results. Next, I'd like to discuss formalized IT processes. Formalized IT systems and methodologies such as ITIL support organizations and individuals to gain optimal value from IT and digital services. It equips a service provider with a clear capability model, aligning them to the business strategy and customer needs. Formalized IT processes is a best practice framework which provides a common language and tools that power collaboration within IT teams to deliver value across the business. Organizations with formal IT oversight and governance are more likely to succeed in PLM deployment. Next, I would like to discuss effective technical team management. Tight integration and coordination of the PLM technical team is critical to success. This ensures that the PLM architecture and integrations are properly scoped, defined, and configured to meet business requirements. Careful consultation and collaboration is required with customer IT organizations and specialists to ensure the PLM technical architecture and integration strategy is aligned with organizational standards and requirements. Again, a proper organizational change management strategy will promote a plan and approach which considers architectural and integration needs early, consistently, and uniformly over the PLM implementation. These topics include technical development methodologies such as Scrum or Waterfall, as well as integration approaches such as ESI or REST, as well as a defined organizational strategy for PLM development environments and rules for progression of code drops and testing. Lastly, significant planning and coordination is required when leveraging services providers to ensure communication and requirements are extended across the vendors and suppliers engaged on your PLM implementation journey. Effective technical team leadership and skill sets increases the likelihood of success. I want to talk a little bit about PLM technical management of teams. So this diagram reflects the traditional approach TriStar uses to engage and synchronize PLM technical teams. It's important to note that this collaboration spans the customer, TriStar, and PTC, and may include additional parties as dictated by implementation scope. It's critically important that communication and synchronization of information and data is manifested and maintained across these teams to ensure success. Managing all the teams supporting your enterprise technology implementation. Next, I would like to discuss organizational change management. Organizational change management helps companies prepare, adopt, and implement fundamental and radical change in behaviors spanning cultures, policies, procedures, technology, and day-to-day working practices. The organizational change management lifecycle can be summarized as follows. Identify the change network. This entails identifying cross-functional business leaders as change agents, business process owners, and key subject matter experts, as well as the PLM team and organization. Preparing for change. Develop a communication plan detailing the schedule for change events such as demos, lunch and learns, newsletters, and recurring meetings on status and planning of the PLM initiative. Establish a PLM website with content, FAQs, and provide opportunities for online PLM system access so users have an early opportunity to experience the user interface and the user experience. The earlier you begin to expose users to the future state user interface and user experience, the more you're going to provide a platform and a strategy to implement change. Also, you need to coordinate with process owners to synchronize the change to tools, processes, and users. Next, implement the change. Develop a detailed learning and adoption coordination plan for role-based user training. This may include blended training and adoption delivered using multiple platforms that are configured by role and process. Training content should be developed by business process owners and SMEs. Lastly, support the change. Leading organizations have well-defined and formal processes for deploying, supporting, and securing enterprise PLM platforms, including go-live support and hypercare, and long-term help desk support with ticketing, triage, and reporting capabilities. OCM doesn't just happen. It requires planning, coordination, resourcing, and support. In our experience, many organizations fail to adequately plan for organizational change and dedicate resourcing. And this typically is manifested in problems at go live and after go live when users are confused about why their processes and tools have changed, and upfront planning and coordination can mitigate that risk. This diagram summarizes the organizational change management lifecycle, again, to identify planning activities around adoption strategy, communication plan, role-based training and curriculum, and mentoring and user support, communication around sponsorship and change team, communication development and communication delivery with organizational support, custom and configured training and development, a training program that includes instructor-led training, virtual training, train the trainer, as well as long-term support, including quick reference cards and learning connectors, a support team, and then mentoring delivery and user support such as learning aids and learning connectors. OCM is a form of program management governance. So in summary today, I'd like to explain how it all fits together. So starting with the diagram that we began with around holistic PLM. This diagram is meant to reflect the need for a holistic approach to PLM and organizational change. Ensure PLM is aligned with the business strategy. It establishes a foundation for organizational change because all users and leadership know why PLM is being deployed, how it will impact their day-to-day work tasks, and how it facilitates a path to realizing corporate objectives. Establish cross-functional PLM organization leads by program management. Run the PLM project the same way using the same processes of product development. Formalize phase gates, reporting, and KPIs. Assess process and data quality to identify risk and data remediation. Understand the product development process impact of PLM and plan to elevate process maturity. Define enterprise data models which reflect the business objects and information transformation across the lifecycle of product development. Ensure tight alignment and coordination of technical resources and teams, including suppliers and vendors like TriStar and PTC. Lastly, prepare for change, plan for change, and enact the change. OCM is critical. A failure to manage all three legs of the people, process, and technology stool is a recipe for failure. TriStar has deployed PLM technology to thousands of customers and has a cadre of specialists with industry experience to mitigate risk and maximize the likelihood of your success. TriStar looks forward to supporting you on your enterprise PLM journey. And now we'd like to take some questions. So I will review them and see if I can answer them. So on process technology change in a small company that ends up being one person, can you tell us of any times where TriStar has successfully assisted a small company like this to PLM adoption? What are the key drivers of that success? So this is a really good question. The approach that I've documented in this presentation today is very extensive and robust. And certainly TriStar understands that not all organizations are the same. And this approach that we've outlined today has to be tailored and measured based on your organization. Whether you're implementing CAD data management, whether you're implementing a product data management to integrate engineering data in a PLM system, or whether you're trying to manage the transformation of engineering, manufacturing, and service content, each one of those is a different approach and a different strategy. While they're different, they all carry the same impact to users. And I guess the key message we're making here today is that a key driver is communicating with the users so that they know why the change is occurring. They understand the context for PLM adoption in terms of what the organization is trying to do. And they know the roadmap and how they are a part of the plan and the success of the PLM implementation. I think communication around the strategy and the alignment with business objectives is one of the key drivers for implementation success. And then also ensuring that you adequately understand the current state of your process and data quality also provides a way for us to help you establish an enterprise data model that can be optimized for your success. The next question is, when bringing a new company to PLM, how do you avoid complete and total overload of the potential champion and budget holder? Is this best done through a series of increasingly deeper discussions and meetings after the customer has come to you with some vivid pain point? Yeah, so again, I think the way you manage the complete and total overload of the potential champion and budget holder is, again, by making sure that you directly align what you're trying to do with your PLM initiative with what your organization is trying to do. Again, this helps create alignment because presumably your organization does a good job of explaining what you're trying to do strategically. Are you trying to reduce your cost of product development? Are you trying to do more, follow the sun development? Whatever that strategy is, when the organization understands that strategy, when they understand the connection of how PLM can support and enable those strategic objectives, that can be a significant enabler to clearing the path for PLM implementation. Let me go on. Let's see, I'm trying to read the next question. For a small company with a team of 5 engineers and a total of 50 to 75 employees, which includes hardware, engineering, and software, how difficult or costly is the implementation? So I'm not really going to try to characterize the cost, but I'll certainly discuss the difficulty nature. I think certainly so when we talk about this technology, we put it in 3 categories. At least TriStar does. We talk about CAD data management, which is really taking informal and uncontrolled data management processes of CAD content and formalizing that using a technology like PLM. It gives you a way to improve the maturity and quality of how you manage your CAD data. There's also product data management, which is really engineering focused. It's really about creating an integrated design environment where you bring together all the cross-functional elements of your engineering design, your systems engineering, your software development, your mechanical design, your electrical design, simulation and analysis, testing, and you create an integrated product structure in PLM that pulls that together and optimizes it. And then there's enterprise PLM, which is really taking advantage of that engineering collection of data that I just summarized and driving it downstream into ERP and service systems, but also connecting it with upstream models-based systems engineering and software development tools. So for a smaller company, we typically see them looking at and initially focusing on optimizing CAD data management first, and then implementing PLM technology to manage engineering parts and engineering bill of materials in an integrated design structure. And then integrating all the different cross-functional contributors to the engineering process in that design structure. And for a small company that's similar to one with a small number of engineers and small number of employees, that's probably the scope of the implementation that you would focus on. Potentially look to future opportunities for downstream connection with ERP, but typically that's kind of what we would recommend. Next question, in an organization that uses siloed data and processes, while engineering has implemented PLM, the other silos have full authority to not use a unified system. How can I drive this as a critical problem up to management as just a PLM administrator? Well, my answer to that, so myself and many of the people that work for TriStar have spent a lot of time working in industry. I mentioned a few, Polaris, Whirlpool. So we have a lot of experience with dealing with the problem that you're suggesting. And we suggest a reliance on TriStar and PTC because we have people who have implemented this kind of technology in organizations similar to yours. So what I would recommend is reach out to the TriStar rep that you know, because we can help build that case to explain why PLM can't be just one more disconnected silo from manufacturing and service and in your systems engineering processes. We can help you articulate and explain that strategy. We can give you tools, documents, and content to help substantiate the strategy and the approach. it's really difficult for an organization and an administrator that's a PLM admin in an organization to kind of make that case. We've got experience and a significant amount of knowledge that we can bring to bear to help you as you articulate that message and educate your value stream in your organization. I think that was the last, oh, one more. Do you have any comments on the holistic PLM for end of life phase? So end of life phase, I'm assuming they mean for the service end of the life cycle and the retirement end of the life cycle. I'm assuming that's what you mean. Certainly, Windchill PLM technology has very strong capabilities for managing service lifecycle integration and aftermarket support. PTC and TriStar supports many of their products to help optimize the service lifecycle. One of the key tenets that we like to promote is the idea that you want to have a PLM system that enables design for support and then support the design. So what does that mean? What it means is changing the way you do product development so that when you're designing the system, you're including the service providers and the system maintainers in the design process so that they can provide and influence the design for serviceability. And then by doing that, you create an opportunity where you can then support the design, where PLM can support the transformation of an EBOM into a service bill of material, where that service material breaks down the repairable and non-repairable assemblies in the structure. It links in technical publications and parts breakdown manuals and spare parts lists, and provides an integrated structure just like an EBOM, except it's a service BOM with all the service components to optimize how you service and maintain that equipment. What's really important is the ability to use Windchill technology for BOM transformation so that you can synchronize and automate the connection of an EBOM to a service BOM so that when engineering change happens, you can plan and propagate the change from engineering through the manufacturing BOM and the ERP process, as well as through the service BOM and the service lifecycle process. So PLM has strong capabilities, but to get to that point of end of life and service support, you really got to start your journey with your CAD and engineering parts and engineering BOMs and manifesting it in a single source of truth with a closed loop and quality-driven change management process. I don't see any more questions right now. I appreciate those questions. They're very good questions. I wanted to note that after this meeting, in an hour or so, all the attendees will receive an email link that has a link to a recording of this presentation. Also, you will get a copy of a white paper that has also the content that was summarized in this presentation. And you'll also be able to access this recording on TriStar's website under the Resource Center that's shown here. You can also Google TriStar's YouTube channel, and you will find this presentation available, the recording available there as well. I hope today's presentation has explained why it's critically important to have a holistic approach to PLM and organizational change. As I said before, TriStar is committed to help you succeed, and we have a cadre of specialists and technologists that can do that. And I would recommend reaching out to your local TriStar's representative and getting in touch. We have a lot of best practices and lessons learned, because one thing we have learned over time is that if you don't learn from the mistakes you make, you'll keep doing it. So we've learned a lot, but we also have established a lot of best practices that can help you in your transformation journey. With that, I will end today's presentation and want to thank you very much for attending. Have a good day.